was something that just happened all the time. When I was in the first grade, my mother took me and my sister, we moved back to California. And I had a rough time. I ended up finding out that the man who I thought was my dad wasn't my dad. So I began to question, okay, well, who am I? And it became one of those things, well, why do I have this last name? My mom has a different last name. My dad has a different last name. And my sister has a different last name. Why am I the only one with this last name? I was a kid growing up with that. When I was in the 5th grade, my mom got pregnant, had a son. When she had my brother, she had sent me and my sister away to go stay with my stepdad's parents. Once again, I was molested in the 5th grade by the same man. I came back home and I kept it in. I kept it inside because when I was little, I had told a friend told her mom told my mom, and I was forced to apologize to this man for lying and accusing him of doing something he didn't do. So when I was in the 5th grade, I came home, I kept it inside. And I hated him. I was afraid of him. I hated him. I wished he would die. I would get scared walking down the street because I could see him. He was in a different state, but I would see him. I ended up running away from home when I was in the 6th grade. I didn't want to go home. I remember being pulled by my hair by my stepdad. Obviously, I was not a bad kid. I just didn't listen. And I would get in trouble and I would get pulled by my hair, I would get my ears pulled, all that stuff. When I was in the 7th grade, we moved. Different city. Different friends, different lifestyle altogether. My mom was pregnant again with another little boy. Okay. I started to do bad in school. A lot of things, leaving my friends that I grew up with, leaving what I knew was life started to affect me. I started hanging out with the wrong crowd. I started hanging out with gangsters. I started hanging out with people who were doing drugs, who were smoking pot, who were having sex all the time. I had a friend who she was in the 8th grade having sex with 25-year-old men while her mom was home. These are the people I hung around with. These are the people I called friends. I became a freshman in high school. And I was just doing bad. I was hanging out with the wrong crowd. I was leaving school early and not telling my mom and going and hanging out and doing whatever I wanted to do. I was getting into fights at school. I was getting into fights outside of school. We were being chased down by cops. And it may sound funny, but it's not anything to be proud of. This is the life I lived because of what I was holding inside of me. So that Christmas break, my mom says, you know what? I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I want you to leave. I don't want you here anymore. I'm going to send you to go live with your grandparents. Mind you, the people she called my grandparents were my stepdad's parents. I said, no, I'm not going. I said, I don't know my dad, but you can send me to go live with my dad. And at that time, for a split second, I felt like my mom understood me. Because she says, why would you want to go live with someone you don't even know? And I said, because I'd rather live with someone I don't know than be forced to go back to a man who's molested me for most of my childhood and go back to that life. And she said, why didn't you never tell me? I said, I did, but you didn't believe me. And that's when my mom told me, you know what? When I was your age, I was raped. And it made me so angry because I was like, you went through this? And when I brought it up, you didn't believe me? When this happened to me, you didn't care? You didn't protect me? So I became angry inside. And I was like, I can't stand you. my main goal in life is to never become like you. I will never treat my kids the way you treated me. I will never let anyone into my house that would hurt my children the way you let someone hurt me. So needless to say, I stayed home. And when my stepdad told his mom, the words that came out of her mouth was, well, she probably deserved it. Look at the way she dresses. I was 3 years old. How could I deserve it? So I have all this anger built up inside. I'm mad at the world. You know, I would go to take a shower, turn the water on, and I would just sit there looking at myself in the mirror like, you're disgusting. You could kill yourself right now and no one would even care. Nobody would miss you. And I would think about, oh, you know, I could take a bottle of painkillers and be okay. Or I could take the razor that's sitting in the cabinet and just cut my wrist and I can get rid of all of this pain. I started dating this guy then. And I ended up losing my virginity to him. I had sex with him at 15. You know? After that, it was almost like that's all I could think about. It's the only thing that took the pain away. You know, it's like he was the only person who understood me. Well, once we were dating, it caused more problems for me. Because my stepdad didn't like him. So, me and my stepdad would start fighting. And it wasn't arguing, it was fist fighting in the front yard. Where I had to go to the hospital because I had bruising on my brain from him hitting me in the head. It ended up that cops knew our house already. This is the life I lived. This is how it was. I was told, you know what? You're never going to amount to anything. You're going to be a hoe just like your mom. You're never going to graduate. You're going to have kids at 16, and you're never going to do anything with your life. This is what I heard every single day when I was in high school. So my sophomore year, I thought I was pregnant. I told my mom. She kicked me out. Mind you, she was pregnant when she was 16, but it didn't make a difference. She still didn't understand me. She kicked me out. And I'm calling my aunt to have my aunt come pick me up so I can go live with my dad, who I've maybe met once or twice but don't really know. And that's how I spent the second half of my sophomore year, living with my dad. Yes, he gave me a shelter over my head, put food in my stomach, but he never really knew me. You know, I was an intruder in his home. He was already married again, with 2 more kids, had his life together, and here I come, the trouble child, to make everything worse. You know, it was one of those things where I would walk into the room and you knew they were talking about you because everything would get real quiet. And it's like, why do I want to be here for this? Why do I want to sit here and be somewhere where I'm hated? Be somewhere where I'm not wanted? You know? So I went back with my mom. Yes.
Did it feel weird?
Living with my dad?
It
did.
And then
It did at first. I spent a lot of time in my room. I stayed in my room. I never went up front to the living room to watch TV. I was hardly ever home. I would go across the street and stay at an aunt's house, who was closer in age to me, and hang out with her instead of staying home. Because I was like, I don't know you guys. You guys don't know me. What am I going to do here? You know, when I was there, that's when I started drinking. You know, I never had a drink of alcohol in my life. And my dad being the dad that he is, I asked for a Coke during Christmas time, and he hands me rum and Coke. Here you go, drink this. You know, and he supported the habit. I didn't have a dad who cared so much for me that he would say, you know what, I don't want you to end up being an alcoholic like me. I don't want you to live this life like me. No, instead, he would say, no, here, have some. What, you want some more beer? Let's go down to the store and pick some up.
would he let his other kids do that?
Yep, he lets all do it. But mind you, me and the other 3, the older ones, he didn't raise any of us practically. Our moms did. None of us lived with him. He would say, oh yeah, I'm calling you, and he would never call. You know, and that's what we grew up with. So I ended up going back with my mom.